Are marriage and monogamy part of the natural law, according to St. Thomas Aquinas in the Summa Theologica? Well, let's look into it. First of all, the classic definition of natural law is a participation of the rational creature in the eternal law, which basically means that the natural law is imprinted on us. It's not something we have to learn. It's not something that we have to go running to the Bible or the catechism or asking people advice about what we should do. It's part of us. We just know naturally what to do. So do we know naturally about marriage? Do we know naturally that marriage is between one man and one woman and not one man and three women? Well, these are the questions that St. Thomas Aquinas asks in the Summa Theologica. First of all, let's give some examples of natural law. Now, natural law, again, is something that we just naturally know as rational creatures that, for example, innocent life should be protected. Okay, it's ironic because a lot of people in our culture today didn't get the memo about this one, but the protection of innocent life should be in just part of us, and we should not have to be taught about this. Honoring our parents, okay, as our parents get older and we take care of them, we return the love, hopefully, that we got from them. Natural law, we don't have to be taught about that. Also, the care for the vulnerable, okay? You come across this and there's a child that's lost and alone in a busy area. Most people are naturally going to know that we should take care of that. And then I think also care for the poor. We should naturally know that if somebody is in a horrible situation or needs our provision, that we naturally have an instinct that we should help them. Okay, so that's the background. And now let's look into the question of, is marriage of the natural law? And interestingly, before I get to that, earlier in the Summa, when St. Thomas Aquinas talks about the sacrament of confession or reconciliation, he asks the same question. He says, is confession of the natural law? And with that one, he says, no, because the sacraments have to do with faith, and faith is supernatural, and it surpasses our normal knowledge and understanding. So, no, I mean, obviously anything that has to do with grace is not going to be natural, because grace by its very nature is supernatural. So, in the supplement, question 41, article 1, Thomas says whether marriage is natural law. Now, he kind of, as Thomas often does, kind of like, well, in one way, yes, no, in another way, no. But here's what he says. He says a thing is said to be natural in two ways. First, as resulting of necessity from the principles of nature. Thus, upward movement is natural to fire. Okay, so he says, in this way, matrimony is not natural, nor are any of those things that come to pass at the intervention or motion of the free will. Interesting, because he's saying that obviously marriage is according to free will, right? But in those other examples, we don't. It's not that we don't exercise free will, but we don't necessarily need it because it's natural to us, and it just happens naturally to protect the innocent or take care of our parents. And so, yeah, even though we have free will, we don't necessarily have to exercise it in those other examples, which is interesting. Secondly, now here's where he says, yeah, it kind of is in a sense. Secondly, that is said to be natural, to which nature inclines, although it comes to pass through the intervention of the free will. Thus, acts of virtue and the virtues themselves are called natural, and in this way, matrimony is natural, because natural reason inclines thereto in two ways. So the virtues, even though they are habitual and they just come naturally to a person who has the virtue, they still are things that people with free will exercise, right? Okay, first, in relation to the principal end of matrimony, namely the good of the offspring. I love that. Thomas is saying the most important end of marriage is the good of the children. It's not about the man and the woman. It's not about the married couple, right? For nature intends not only the begetting of offspring, but also its education and development until it reaches the perfect state of man as man, and that is the state of virtue. Okay, now a child cannot be brought up and instructed unless it have a certain and definitive parents. And this would not be the case unless there were a tie between the man and a definite woman. I don't know exactly what a definite woman is, but yeah, a specific woman. and it is in this that matrimony consists. Secondly, in relation to the secondary end of matrimony, which is the mutual services which married persons render one another in household matters. Now notice Thomas didn't say, oh, the love and the affection and the unitive aspect of the marriage and they just love each other. Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not where Thomas goes with this, right? He's saying they can help each other in household chores and household duties, and they can work together, or household matters. For just as natural reason dictates that men should live together, since one is not self-sufficient in all things concerning life, from which reason man is described as being naturally inclined to political society, so too along these works that are necessary. Okay, so too among those works that are necessary for human life, some are becoming to men, others to women. Wherefore, nature inculcates that society of man and woman which consists in matrimony. Okay, so a little politically incorrect in Thomas's part, but he's saying that there are certain things that jobs that men are better at than women, and some things that women are better at than men. We all know that that's true, right? Okay, so now supplements question 65, Article 1. Thomas goes there. He says, is it against natural law to have several wives? Okay, in some cultures, in some parts of the world, some religions, historically, there has been bigamy. There has been polygamy, okay? One man, many women, and I guess the reverse sometimes may be true as well. One woman, many men, okay? It's exercised in some places. But, okay, it's against the natural law to have more than one spouse, okay? I love what Thomas says here. He says, now, since man of all animals knows the aspect of the end and the proportion of the action to the end, it follows that he is imbued with a natural concept whereby he is directed to act in a befitting manner. And this is called the natural law or the natural right. But in other animals, it's called the natural instinct, okay, irrational creatures. For brutes are rather impelled by the force of nature to do befitting actions than guided by an act of their own judgment, okay? So irrational creatures tend to do the right thing. You know, they fly correctly or build mounds or dams for beavers. They do things right. But for us, we do things right when we apply right reason to the situations. Therefore, the natural law is nothing else than a concept naturally instilled into man, whereby he is guided to act in a befitting manner in his proper actions, whether they are competent to him by virtue of his generic nature, or, for instance, to beget, to eat, and so on, or belong to him by virtue of his specific nature, as, for instance, to reason, and so forth. Now, whatever renders an action improportionate to the end, which nature intends to obtain by a certain work, is said to be contrary to the natural law. All right, so lots of words there, and what Thomas is saying is, come on. It's common sense. It just doesn't work, okay? One man, several women, several wives, don't go there, okay? It is improportionate to the end which nature intends. I mean, obviously you can have more children, but no. So I think in this case, Thomas is being the apostle of common sense, which is often the title given to G.K. Chesterton, and he's saying, no, don't go there. It's against natural law, and we all know that to be the case. Thanks for watching. God bless you.